What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Word on Woodward presented by Rehmann. You can catch us here every Tuesday and Thursday starting at noon. Make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, turning on your live notifications so you don't miss a single second of the Word on Woodward. As always, we've got a jam-packed show for you today with some great guests. We're going to have Ken Kale joining us shortly, interviews with Brad Galli, WXYZ sportscaster, Tigers broadcaster, Dan Dickerson, The Athletics, Cody Stavenhagen, and more. And you guys, I want to remind you that throughout the entire show, no matter where you're watching, if you have a comment or a question for myself, Art, Carly, any of our guests, make sure you're dropping those in the comments so we know about it and we can try to get to that throughout the show. Like I said, we've got a jam-packed show for you today, so we're going to get right into it. You know we can't do a Word on Woodward show without my co-host, Art Regner. Art, I know that you had to last-minute dry shampoo your hair. You ready to go? It's looking good as always.
Yep, it definitely was dry. I wasn't planning on dry shampooing it today. I was actually going to wash it, but as you can tell, as it gets longer, it is really really looks horrible. But aside from that, let's don't notice the hair. Just don't look at the hair, and we'll see what happens today. But it's colics and I don't even want to get started on it, Daniela. Let's get to the show. Baseball's going to start, and I'm just excited. We have a lot of great guests on, and I'm really looking forward to today. I'm not really looking forward to this hair, but I'm going to name this look. I'm going to call this the Scorich. That's what I'm going to call this right here. It's kind of a.
I think he's probably jealous that your hair looks like that. Maybe you should try it.
Oh yeah. I'm sure he does. All I need now is like an orange suit with a blue tie and a white shirt, and I'd be looking really, really good.
And yeah, I'm sure nobody listening right now knows what we're talking about.
Yeah,
Steve Scorich is our executive producer. Shout out to him.
Really, way inside. I'm sorry that I wasted your time with that.
That's all right, Art. We give you one chance a show to waste everybody's time. So you used it up for today. Just remember that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, you guys, we're going to get into our big three for today, presented by our friends at Chevy. And for our first topic, we're going to give you a Tigers update. As Art mentioned, opening day is Friday. We're going to bring in Carly Johnston. She's got everything Tigers that you need.
Thanks so much, Daniela. Okay, so yesterday we heard from Al Avila and Ron Gardenhire. They spoke to the media as the Tigers wrapped up their summer camp ahead of opening day this week. I know we're all very excited, but they spoke to the media immediately following some roster moves. I know we've heard about some of those. Those roster moves include reassigning a good number of players that we saw in summer camp and spring training, including Alex Faedo, Zach Hess, Matt Manning, Dylan Dingler, Riley Green, Spencer Torkelson, and Casey Mize to the Tigers' alternative training location. Like I said, Avila and Gardy, they spoke to the media yesterday, and Avila touched on Casey Mize, who I know Art loves, and his play and character. So let's check it out and see what he had to say about it.
From the day we drafted him, that's why we made him, 1-1. We thought he was a very special pitcher. He's handled himself great. He's a pro. He works very hard. We have high expectations of him. He has high expectations of himself, and he's on the right track.
I know someone else, like I said, is very upset that Casey Mize won't be in the starting rotation to kick off this season. Art, are you okay?
Between my hair and Casey not on the club, it's been a rough go for me. The start of the show has been really rough. Hey, he's gonna eventually be in Detroit. He will eventually be in Detroit. So, Arthur, go down there, get your work in, and we'll see you up hopefully real soon.
Love it. And that is one thing that Avila and Gardenhire spoke on. They said that he's definitely still developing, and he's a talented player who really has great character. So Avila was also asked if these young, talented players like Casey Mize that showcase their talents during summer camp can lead to an expedited rebuilding process. He really liked that question, so let's check out his answer now.
One of the things that we saw in Riley Green, from the time we drafted him, which was not very long ago, physically speaking, he's already developing into a man. from a young man, out of high school to a guy that now he looks like a body of a major league player. You can see that physical development happening to him right now. Obviously, he's taking a lot of pride in his defense. So that total package, we're seeing it develop right in front of our eyes pretty quickly. So for a kid right out of high school, so that's pretty special.
So we heard him there talking about who we all remember had a really great couple of catches over summer camp, a good home run. So we attribute some of that expedited rebuilding process to players like Riley Green, a player that he says is growing into a major league player physically and mentally. And then moving on to the veterans of the team, Miguel Cabrera, we got to talk about him. He's looking good. He's looking lean. He was hitting them in spring training and now in summer camp. And Avila said he's feeling confident with some protection in the lineup now he has swingers like Cameron Maben, who is also a really good guy in the bullpen, but which should really help out this team in the shortened season, hopefully getting some of those points on the board. Guardian Avila said they're cautiously optimistic heading into this season. A little optimistic, but a little bit of realism. It really can go either way. You get on a hot winning streak and you're one of the top teams. And then on the other hand, you lose a few and it's really hard to dig your way out. But either way, I'm really looking forward to the season. As a fan and as someone who's reporting on the team, it's crazy to think that it's finally just a few days away from some live baseball. I'm excited. I know you guys are too.
Carly, we are both very excited. Thank you so much for that update, you guys. Carly will be joining us later in the show. Make sure you're sending her any questions you have or comments you have for our Let's Socialize segment later. Again, thank you, Carly. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys. See you soon.
All right, let's talk a little bit more about the Tigers opening day. We do know that Matt Boyd will be the opening day starter for Friday's game in Cincinnati. No surprises there. I think we all knew that this was coming. But what do you think Matt Boyd is thinking, and how is he looking forward to proving that he is that number one pitcher for the Tigers?
Well, certainly. The interesting thing about Matt Boyd is that he is a complete person, if that makes any sense. I mean, he's focused in on baseball, but he understands where he's at in his point in his life. And I think that, he's worked his whole life to be there. So I think he's grounded. I think he's balanced. I think he's looking forward to it. I think he's honored. I think he's humbled. I think that, this is something I'm really looking forward to. I'm really, really happy for Matt Boyd. Again, as we've talked about, when the David Price trade was made, and nothing against Daniel Norris, because I think Daniel Norris has a wealth of talent, and I hope someday he really fulfills his potential in the Tigers uniform. But he was the get. He was the big guy in that deal. I remember I was on the radio back then. I remember talking to a beat writer from Toronto who told me, "Oh, you're going to love Daniel Norris." And, Matt Boyd, he's a nice pitcher. He's going to eat up some innings for you. Kind of like Ivan Nova, kind of compared him, against a current Tiger pitcher. But Matt Boyd has obviously exceeded those expectations. And the reasons he's exceeded those expectations, and we're going to talk to him on Thursday, so looking forward to that, it is because of who he is, the faith that he has, not only himself and, in his fellow man, as corny as that sounds. So, I think, this is great. I think that Matt Boyd is someone that we really have to look and watch out for, because he has an inner drive that a lot of people don't have. It goes much deeper than, hey, I'm a baseball player, aren't I great? I mean, he's very, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? He's cerebral in everything he does and in his approach. And I'm really looking forward to seeing him on the bump, as he likes to say, on Friday in Cincinnati, and see what he can do this year. He's got a good head on his shoulders. He's very, very balanced, and I think that's great news.
It is great news. We're all excited to see Matt Boyd and the rest of the Tigers take the field on Friday. That's right, you guys. This Friday, July 24th, is opening day for the Tigers. They will be in Cincinnati with coverage at 6:10. That will be on Fox Sports Detroit, of course. And then our home opener, presented by Ballpark, that will be on Monday, July 27th. So under a week away, guys. The home opener in Detroit, that game will start at 7 p.m. Very exciting stuff. We're really excited to get baseball going. And as Art said, Matt Boyd will be joining the show on Thursday to talk about taking the mound on Friday for the Tigers' first pitch. Now, guys, let's move on to our second topic. We do need our third topic. I'm losing track of my numbers today. Third topic of the day is the NHL awards. The NHL has been releasing their award finalists the past couple of weeks here. So let's start with talking about you got your coffee?
I was
ready to talk about
the gentleman who made the finalists. Gentlemen, to you, to the winner, congratulations eventually. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah. You know what? I have not figured. You think by now, like after 8 months or how long we've been doing this show, I would have this this thing figured out that you could see the cup. This is a Beatles cup, by the way. It says all you need is love, Lennon and McCartney. Yes,
I like it.
Not very colorful though. Yeah, I'm a little disappointed in that. The award finalists. Let's get to it. I'm excited about this. The award show is going to be sometime soon. Maybe God only knows. Whenever, eventually, someone's going to be awarded something in the NHL. Your guess is as good as mine when it's going to happen.
Let's take a look at the finalists for the Masterton Award, Art. And this is perseverance, sportsmanship, and dedication to hockey. Stephen Johns out of Dallas, Oscar Lindblom out of Philadelphia, and Bobby Ryan out of Ottawa. Now, I can tell you this, all three of these guys are deserving. They have great stories, but Oscar Lindblom's story to me really stands out. He beat cancer. Most recently, he's cancer-free, which is just incredible. And we have seen him go all the way through that entire process and come out. And he's ready to play again. And I'm so excited for him. So he's the one that really sticks out to me, Art. But like I said, all three of those guys are very deserving of this award.
No, there's no question about it. I think you're absolutely right. I would probably go with Bobby Ryan. I mean, his whole life reads like like a soap opera to a certain degree. So I mean, him coming back and battling all kinds of addictions, kind of abuse as a child. I mean, it's a very full story. Bobby Ryan has always been one of those players that people say, well, boy, he's never really lived up to his expectation. I mean, he's a great player. He has had some very, very good years in the NHL. But what's going on? I think when you know his whole story and everything that the outside world has affected his hockey world, I think it's just tremendous. But like you said, I mean, the Masterton is a really strange award because really you could almost give it to all 31 guys that each club nominates one player from each team, because all of them are good community minded people who've overcome either an adversity in their life or helping out their community, and that's why it's a great award. It's very, very difficult to choose, hey, you win the Masterton because you're the most decent guy in the whole league or whatever. I mean, I think it's tough, but you can't go wrong. Whomever wins it is greatly deserving, and the two runners up are just as deserving. It just didn't happen for them this year.
Now, Art, let's talk about the Selke Trophy. This is for a forward who excels in defensive aspects. So we've got Patrice Bergeron out of Boston, Sean Couturier from Philadelphia, and Ryan O'Reilly out of St. Louis. Now, this one is tough, Art. I don't know if I could make this decision if I had to. Who would you go with?
Well, I know he's won it 4 times, but I have to go with Patrice Bergeron. I mean, Patrice Bergeron is, maybe because we see him all the time with Boston, but, he is just a stud. He's a two-way player, 200-foot player, great on face-offs, kills penalties, even though I guess that doesn't go into his plus and minus. High plus rating. I think that Patrice Bergeron is just a fantastic player. Nothing against the, Ryan O'Reilly might be the popular choice because of, everything, Buffalo, Colorado, now, he settles in St. Louis and wins a cup. But I can't see how Patrice Bergeron doesn't win this for the 5th time.
I think I'm with you there, Art. And like you said, it might be because we see Boston so much, but he's incredible and he deserves it. So he would be very deserving of his 5th one. So let's move on to our next award. This one, we're going to talk about the Vezina Trophy. Connor Hellebuck. There we go. Connor Hellebuck, a Michigan guy. He's in there out of Winnipeg. And then we've got Tuukka Rask, another Boston guy, and Andrei Vasilevsky out of Tampa Bay. Again, another tough one. I'm looking at Tuukka Rask again, Art, like we just talked about. We see him a lot. So Tuukka Rask, obviously great, even though the Red Wings, they were good against Boston this year. But let's look at those three guys again. Hellebuck, the Michigan guy, we've got Tuukka Rask, and we've got Andrei Vasilevsky. Who do you think is going to take that one?
Well, first of all, I'm renaming my Skorich into the Hellebuck. I think you can tell Michigan hair here. You know, he looks great. This is a tough one. I think that Connor Hellebuck has had a great year. You know, it's really tough when you play in a market like Winnipeg, where you are the only game in town. No, I love the Blue Bombers. Don't get me wrong, I'm a big CFL fan, but I think there's a lot of pressure. You know, he had a great year, then kind of a down year, and then he rebounded very, very nicely here. You know, Winnipeg's a funny team. You know, they the whole Dustin Byfuglien situation. There are all kinds of odd things that have gone on with that team, and guys leaving and guys not leaving, and so. So you need stable goaltending, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And Hellebuck has provided that. You know, I'm a state of Michigan guy. I'd love to see him win it. Tuukka Rask has a lot to prove. You know, I read a really interesting article on Tuukka Rask. He said, hey, look, he's never going to really be accepted by the Boston fans, and he's been great as a Bruin. Let's put it that way. Absolutely a stud, but until he wins a Stanley Cup, and, so maybe they'll give him his due and he'll win the Vezina. But, you know, I think Andrei Vasilevsky is head and shoulders the best goalie in the league. And, I don't have an affinity for Russian goalies because I keep telling Steve to draft, Steve Yzerman, that is, to draft Yaroslav Askarov. But, that's my wishful thinking. I think this is a tough award. I don't know how it's going to go down. They're all deserving about it. But if I had to choose, I would say Vasilevsky wins it, or Vasilevsky, pardon me.
I had a feeling that would be your pick, but for a second there, I thought you were going to pick Connor Hellebuck, but you wouldn't pick a guy from a Canadian team. Who am I kidding?
Well, no, but he is an American. That's the thing. That's the thing. He is an American, and he's from Michigan, and he has great hair.
All right. Let's touch on the last one. And this is the Norris Trophy, Defensive Player of the Year. We've got John Carlson out of Washington, Victor Hedman from Tampa Bay, and Roman Josi from Nashville. These are all really tough. I don't know why I keep saying that as if they're not all going to be tough decisions, but who are you taking out of those three, Art?
Well, I think Roman Josi has been really an underrated and underappreciated. He plays in Nashville, and, except if you're Carrie Underwood or something, you probably have never really even heard of him that much unless you're a really huge NHL fan. I think he's very, very deserving. I think Victor Hedman, when healthy, is the best defenseman in the league. But I've got to go. I got to tip my cap to the American again, John Carlson. I mean, he was putting up astounding numbers. I mean, he had like 60 assists. When the season was on pause, he was on pace to shatter Larry Murphy's most points by a defenseman in a Capitals uniform. I mean, he was really up there with the big heavy hitters, the Paul Coffeys of the world, as far as point production. We know from Madison Bowie, who idolizes him, wears Carlson's number here in Detroit. I think John Carlson wins this award, and I think he should win this award.
All right, Art, we're going to talk more about these awards with Ken Kale for Downtown Hockeytown later in the show. That wraps it up for the Big Three today, you guys. The Big Three is presented by Chevy. Chevy Clean dealers are committed to using enhanced vehicle cleaning measures with CDC-approved cleansers, so when you're ready, you can find new roads with confidence. I told you guys Ken Kale is going to be joining us for Downtown Hockeytown, but you guys are extremely lucky because we're going to have Ken Kale on for 2 segments today. He is also our guest for the Mailbag, delivered to you by Little Caesars. Ken, are you ready for your big day? You're on twice today. Want to make sure you're prepared. You're ready to go?
Yeah, I'm ready to go. And as they always say, the postman always delivers. So I'm delivering the mail here today to you guys.
Oh, my gosh. You know what? Daniela, Ken is such a pro. I guarantee you in the next segment, he's going to have a different shirt and tie combination on.
I
All right,
wouldn't
you
put
stole
that
my
past
thunder.
him. I really wouldn't.
Hey, I know Kenny. You know, when you grow up idolizing Ken Cal, but we're the same age, you know, like I do. I know more about Ken Cal than Ken Cal knows about himself.
Yeah, that's what you're going to tell Dan Dickerson when he's on later on, right?
Oh, you bet. I've got it down.
You guys, let's get to our first question of today's mailbag. Fred from East Point asks, the Men in Blades have reached Michigan. Can you believe it? They made it all the way from Boston. I'm going to give you a little background on this, you guys. Jake Adkins and Andrew Walker, freshmen at UMass Boston, they were on the men's hockey team, and they embarked on a nearly 1,000-mile inline skating journey from Boston to Michigan. So they're rollerblading all the way from Boston to Michigan, and they're raising money for American Cancer Society. And I'm getting word based on their Twitter account that they have just reached Michigan. That is amazing, you guys. Ken, what do you think about this?
Well, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of back in the day when there was a fella by the name of Terry Fox who was suffering from cancer, and he lost a leg because of the cancer, and he made a trip. He actually walked or jogged with an artificial leg from the east coast of Canada all the way to the west coast, and he became a very popular person in the fight against cancer, and that was an amazing thing. So I think that these guys came up with a good cause, and I'll tell you what, you're skating 100 miles a day or something to cover all those states and to get from Boston to Michigan. That's pretty outstanding. And I don't know if anybody ever tried rollerblading out there, but when you get in some where the cement's not really that smooth, it's kind of tough out there and difficult. But I give these guys a lot of credit. Glad they're here in Michigan, and let's give them a warm Michigan welcome. That's for sure.
Ken, you know, it's funny that you say that because I have been rollerblading. I picked it up during quarantine. It was one of my things that I was doing. And when I heard that they were rollerblading over 1,000 miles, I was like, what? I go 5 and I can't really move for the next couple hours or the next day. I'm feeling it after that. So it was really impressive. And Andrew Walker, one of the guys who did it, is actually from Mason, Michigan, which is where the guys are headed. So it's just a really cool story. Art, I think we're going to need you to challenge them and see if you can go 1,000 miles on rollerblades.
Well, yeah, definitely. I know that I can do it, but I just want to say welcome to heaven, boys, because I know Ohio is hell. So welcome to Michigan.
So we've got Canada and Ohio covered for the day. Now we can move on.
Oh, you bet. That will never end.
All right, our here's question and number 2 for you. Peter in Brighton asked, which pitcher impressed you most so far in camp? I feel like I know the answer to this, but go ahead, Art.
Well, actually, there's 2. One is in Detroit, and he's going to be on the bump on I really love that expression, by the way. I sound like I know what I'm talking about. Yeah, he'll be on the bump on Friday in Cincinnati, starting for the Tigers. That, of course, is Matt Boyd, left-handed pitcher. 6th last year in strikeouts in the American League. Was just a dominant pitcher the first half last year, and then kind of fell off in the second half. But I'm really looking forward to big things for Matt Boyd. I think, what have we heard all during the Word on Woodward as we've geared up towards this moment, towards opening day? Everyone we've talked to, from Ron Gardenhire, Tigers, other pitchers, they've all said the same thing. And when I mean Tigers, positional players have said that Matt Boyd is ready to go, that he could probably, if they wanted to, he could probably throw a complete game right now. He worked out like a fiend during the pause. So him, and of course, I've got to mention, Casey Arthur Mize for sure. Casey Mize is ready. I think that Al Avila's comments were, I think that he's at a point now where physically and mentally he needs to be challenged, if that makes sense. He, in his own mind, whether, he comes up and it doesn't work out and he's knocked down a peg, thinking, okay, maybe I have a little more to work on. I'm not quite as there as I thought. But I think that Casey Mize is ready. I think he deserves a shot. I think it's going to be sometime this season in Detroit. But I do think that, along with Matt Boyd, you're looking, a righty and a lefty. You're looking at a really good 1-2 combination at the top of the the Tigers pitching rotation, and we can go back. Kenny can remember this. We can go back to, Lolich and McLean were great there for a while. And, Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer, if you can believe it, or even Rick Porcello. I mean, you start naming off that staff, but the Tigers are in good shape. I mean, I really do believe the Tigers are in good shape. And and I know I don't want to get off on Riley Green, but what Al Avila said about Riley Green, I've always been saying Tigers need to catch a break on a player, somebody, even though I know he's a 5th overall draft choice, Chris McCoskey, I get that. But I am going to say that, Riley Green could be here a lot quicker. I think his timeline has been accelerated. You put him in there along with Arthur, and and then you've got Matt Boyd to stabilize it. It's certainly some of the great veteran presence. Hey, I'm excited, but I would have to answer the question. I would say Boyd in Detroit, Mize in Toledo.
Great answer, Art. We're all excited to see Matt Boyd take the mound on Friday for the Tigers opening day. Let's get to our next question, Ken. This one is for you. Miles from Commerce asked, can the hometown kid win the Vezina? And of course, talking about Connor Hellebuck of the Winnipeg Jets. He graduated from Walled Lake Northern in Commerce Township, and now he's a finalist for the Vezina Trophy. So, Ken, even if he doesn't win it, what a cool journey, what a cool story. But do you think he has a chance?
Of course, I think he has a chance. And of the players that are mentioned, they're all really in the same boat. No goaltenders really dominated in all categories. But the thing about Hellebuck, I remember when he first came into the league, and actually Winnipeg was actually looking to try and get another goaltender in there because he struggled. And I don't know if it was because of him or if it was because of the overall team defense that the Jets played, but certainly he had a remarkable summer that one year. He came back and he has steadily improved. And what's amazing about his statistics this year is the fact shutouts on a team that's really not defensively opinion. I mean, I think they're okay, but they're not stellar. So that tells you a lot about him. Hellebuck is a terrific goaltender, great glove hand. We saw it in the video right there. And he can win the Vezina Trophy. There's 2 other candidates out there. We'll talk more about them later on. It'd be nice to see him win it. I don't know if he will win it, but if he does, it's a nice trophy for a hometown kid.
As Ken mentioned, you guys will talk more about the Vezina Trophy and all of the other NHL awards in downtown Hockeytown. So let's get to our last question for today's mailbag. Art, I'm going to have you answer this one first. Carol from Taylor asks, which of these is the best Miggy moments? Now, we're blessed with some great Miggy moments. There's a lot of them, but he gives that thumbs up after the slide. Or this one of my personal favorites. Oh, there's the slide again. He'll give the thumbs up. Now we're going to look at B.
Yeah.
Oh, a nice hug.
They're both classic. Let's be honest. I mean, that's certainly Miguel Cabrera. I have to go with B, though. I mean, just the expression of the fan that he ends up hugging is like, hey, dude, I'm not even a Tigers fan. But I would have to go. I would have to go with B. The thing I love about Mickey more than anything is that he always is asking for an appeal, or he will appeal to the first base umpire. He'll just go down there and point. I know, sometimes a player can obviously ask the home plate umpire, hey, can you check with first? Did I swing or not? And I think there's been a couple of times where he's actually, called to have me check, and they said he swung when he thought it was a ball. You know what I mean? But that's a great moment. Hey, you're right, Mr. Umpire, but you can't beat this. Look at the fan. Look at the guy. He's watching the ball. Then all of a sudden he's got, Miguel, who's just laughing his butt off. I mean, I don't know how you can't go with B.
Ken, do you think he said anything to that fan? He had to have said something to him. I'm not sure what it would be, but he's on top of him. He had to have whispered something, maybe.
I'll tell you what. Guys, here's the thing about Miguel Cabrera. Here's the thing about Miguel Cabrera, and he kind of reminds me of Pavel Datsyuk. If anybody was as close to Pavel Datsyuk, it's us in the media that are around him every day. Datsyuk was the same way. He loved to have fun out there. He will play jokes with you. I remember one time we were in Vancouver, and the door opened to the elevator, and I was going down, but he was going up. And he reached his hand out and he says, "Oh, Ken, how you doing?" He starts shaking my hand and he pulls me later, and I had to go up to his floor and then finally went down. And those are the types of things that he liked to do. He was so gifted, Pavel Datsyuk. And the same thing with Cabrera, likes to go out, likes to have fun out there. I would have to go with B just because of the fan reaction there in Cleveland. And, you don't see a lot of characters these days in any sports. And one of the last characters in hockey that I remember was Brett Hull. And I just like the fact that Cabrera's out there. He's having fun, makes the game interesting, and he's a heck of a ball player too. So I would go with B, even though that was a great slide by Cabrera in A. There we go.
Unanimous decision. We're going with B today. But like I said, Miguel Cabrera
no doubt.
has a ton of great Miggy moments. Oh, C is both. Can we pick both? Is that cool? Yeah. Yeah, the Tigers tweeted that they chose C, even though we didn't give them that option. But I like both. Like I said, we like all of Miguel Cabrera's moments. He's great. What a character. And I feel like we're going to get some good ones, even though he won't have any fans to hug this season. He's going to give us some good stuff because he's definitely that personality guy that likes to keep the room light.
Well, too bad they don't play Houston this year because, first it'd be nice to see JV back at Comerica, but, he and Altuve got something going on too. I mean, I think he always likes to lift him up, and, Miguel's 6'5" or something, and Altuve's listed at 5'4", I think, but that's always a good Mutt and Jeff kind of combination. So, Miggy has fun. He has fun. And that's part of it. And Kenny knows this. Part of the thing that's great about covering professional athletes is that they're overdeveloped in one sense where, they're great physically and, they're mentally tough and they can play and they compete, but they're playing a game and there's still that kid factor in all of them where they're doing it because they love it. They have that passion for it. And that certainly comes through with Miguel Cabrera.
It does, Art. It does. And Ken, thank you so much for joining us for the mailbag. We will see you later for Downtown Hockey Town. So don't go anywhere unless you're changing your shirt and tie.
Okay, we'll see you later.
A big thank you to Little Caesars for presenting the mailbag. Little Caesars proudly introduces their hot and ready pepperoni cheeser. You get a large pizza topped with classic pepperoni, fresh mozzarella, and a toasted Parmesan and Asiago cheese crust for just $7. Try our no-contact pizza portal or delivery from Little Caesars. If you're not having hot dogs on opening day, Little Caesars pepperoni cheeser will definitely be a close second. So you guys will definitely have to get one and enjoy viewing the Tigers game on Friday night. And we've got a lot coming up in today's show, you guys. We've already had Ken Cal. He's going to be back for Downtown Hockey Town. We're going to have our other radio broadcaster, Dan Dickerson, joining us for Brush Street Beat. And later in the show, Art is going to sit down with Cody Stavenhagen from The Athletic. But right now, we're going to catch up with Carly.
That's right. It's time for Catching Up with Carly, presented by Meyer. Today, I'm joined by WXYZ sports anchor, none other than Brad Galli. How's it going, Brad?
Carly, the last time we talked, you had cool decorations, but you've really upgraded your home studio. I like how it looks.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Art always says that I have broccoli behind me, but it's moss.
Good.
Just in case I need a little midstream snack. Anyway, we're headed into this week, and this week kicks off the regular season for the Major League Baseball. How excited are you as a fan and as a sports anchor?
It's so great to just have sports back. I think I've been watching golf. I watch golf every weekend normally, but I think I've watched it even more in the last few weeks because it's really been one of the only things going on. You can only watch repeats of former championships so many times. So I think that baseball coming back is such a great thing. I was watching the Cubs and White Sox go at it on ESPN. Sorry, it's not a clap on.
That's okay.
I was watching the Cubs and White Sox play on ESPN, and just to see live sports happening, team sports happening, was so great. And the first day that I went to summer camp at Comerica Park, it was such an eerie vibe because there are no fans there, and we know there aren't going to be fans there. But just to be back around it, I think when everybody turns the TV on and watches the games, Carly, they'll have the feeling that I had when I walked back in there. Summer is different. This year is different. Everything about it is different. But at least sports gives us some sort of a little bit of normal attitude to know that like there's that comfort food for us, and at least we have baseball there to turn to this week.
I like that analogy of the comfort food, but let's dive more into the Tigers and talk about training. So you were in Lakeland at spring training before it got cut short. What was your assessment then of the team?
Well, I think the youth, I think you and I had talked about that, and I've told everybody that'll listen, just those young arms that everybody is very aware of the Tigers have been building around for the future. They are impressive, and Casey Mize is the real deal. I just think when you're building around a pitcher like that, like the Tigers did for so long with Justin Verlander, I think you can have some confidence. And I think for so long now, the Tigers had that nucleus of Verlander, Cabrera, Max Scherzer, and some other stars that would come through this organization. And I think to build around a guy like Casey Mize, and now they've started to add bats through the draft, the last 2 first rounds and other rounds, of course, but those last 2 first-round picks have been great. I just think the youth at the top of the rotation in the future will be really, really exciting to watch. I watched Casey Mize a lot in Lakeland, and even listening to Matt Boyd just on Sunday say that he watched him too. I think he's the guy everybody Tigers fans are going to be watching for a long time.
Art is Casey Mize's #1 fan, so I'm sure he'll love to hear you say that. And then now they're in summer camp at Comerica Park. Are there any different takeaways you have from it now? Has anyone stood out now more than they did in Lakeland?
I think being in more game situations in Lakeland when you're playing against other teams, you start to see people step up. Well, that season was cut short with the exhibition season and all the spring training games. And so it was kind of a weird refresh button, right? Because everyone was training on their own. But a guy like Jeimer Candelario, who just really continued to put the ball in play throughout summer camp, I think he's been impressive at third base as a guy that stepped up to kind of say, this is my position. He's had some up and down times since they acquired him from Chicago. But I thought he was a steal his first year. He just looked like he had the makings of a guy who was an 8 to 10 year third baseman, a guy that would be a locked part of the lineup for so long. I think it's been good to see him. He's a good dude. He works hard. He's known that his job has kind of been in jeopardy for the last, I would say, year, because this team's bringing up a lot of young players. And so I think watching him has been cool. Miguel Cabrera is a name everybody's going to watch because of the career that he's put together. I think the fact that he came in, I think there was one picture. I was at the Rocket Mortgage Classic, and somebody goes, "Did you see this? Did you see this?" I had 6 different people show it to me of his like forearm muscles. Like he got lean for spring training, and then he got even stronger and even more. Just I don't even know, old Cabrera-esque. I think in the time played. So he'll be a name that I know everyone's going to be watching as this 60-game season begins to unfold.
Of course, can't wait to see the home runs he'll hit. So I'm going to play a little bit of a game with you, I guess you can call it. I'm going to throw out some names and hear what you have to say about them. We just heard you talk about some guys, including Cabrera. But now I want to get to someone younger. Riley Green, what do you think about him?
Impressive. He's got a long future in the major leagues. I think already as a 19-year-old, for him to be kind of garnering so much attention and being the headline news in newspapers, radio. I was listening to our friend Tony Ortiz on 97.1 give an update the other day, and he goes, Riley Green, he's not going to make the team. But maybe he's going to make them a little bit more confused on how soon he should make it. And I'm watching this kind of things. He's breaking his arm, almost jumping over the fence, bringing home runs back, and tagging balls out of play in opposite field territory. He's fantastic. He's the real deal. He said that the challenge for him really was to be more of a defensive player because he was viewed as just kind of a bat coming out of high school. And so already, Carly, in just a year and a half, he has shown he is more than just a flashy bat. He's a real deal.
All right, someone else, another young player. Our #1 pick this season, Spencer Torkelson.
Man, a man. That's a grown man, right? He steps into Comerica Park for his first batting practice and just shows off that grown man strength. Ron Gardenhire said it immediately. You can just tell when the ball jumps off his bat, you can tell why he was the #1 overall pick. You can tell why he was 1-1. To be a guy that wasn't picked out of high school at all in the draft and then to make that jump to be the clear #1 selection, he's mature. He's cool. Carly, I don't know how much you've listened to his interviews, but he's seasoned. I mean, a Pac-12 guy, of course, he's going to be in the spotlight a lot. Arizona State's got a fantastic program, but he and Casey Mize, I think, are just perfect building blocks for guys that are seasoned. They know how to handle the spotlight, and they're ready for the success. Torkelson, he's not going to make the team this year. We know that. We've talked about that. But boy, man, does he just give you hope for what's next.
Torque, unleash the torque. I love it. And he's friends with Guy Fieri. I mean, who would have thunk? All right, and then moving on to Derek Hill. What's your assessment of him?
Another flashy glove. Had a little bit of trouble staying healthy at the end of summer camp, but I think showed the Tigers organization, listen, when you have such a slim down time now to get ready for a season after there was such a big pause, I don't think it's a bad thing to do what Derek Hill did and to show that he can really make some nice catches and can be a guy that, listen, when they have this taxi squad and they're wondering who they're going to call up if somebody gets hurt, Ron Gardner has said it repeatedly, injuries happen, Carly. You got a guy like Derek Hill sitting there in that taxi squad, and even down the road too, if it's not this year, if you go, hey, he's going to be up for 2 or 3 games and we know what he's going to do in the outfield, let's see if he can get some at-bats in too, I think it's only a positive thing. I think he's got a little bit more mileage on him in the minors before we see him up in Detroit consistently, but I think he definitely did himself some favors in the summer camp.
No kidding. Okay, and then the confirmed starting pitcher for opening day, Matt Boyd. I love Matt Boyd. He's a good, really well-spoken guy, but what is some assessment you've had from the play in camp?
Don't buy it. He's an absolute jerk. No, I'm kidding. He is probably the kindest athlete I'll ever cover in my entire career. I'm sorry to anybody that's coming next, but he is just an unbelievable dude. And you can just tell his teammates, they really like him. They feed off of him. He's still young, Carly, but these young pitchers look at him and go, well, everyone follows what Matt Boyd does. Everyone watches what he does off the field. We all watch what he does on the field. He's been building for this. He went to spring training knowing, he was probably going to be the guy. He has a strong belief in himself and in the hard work that pays off. He said he watched Seattle Mariners home openers throughout his life, went to about 3 or 4, and he goes, I knew I was going to be one of those guys getting the ball on opening day. And so to get that honor, to be the man, it was a no-doubter. It's a no-brainer. But the fact that he knew in February that he was going to be the guy and then knew again just about 10 days ago and then finds out on Sunday that he's going to be the guy and just kind of goes, yeah, it's an honor. You can tell. Like he's all business. He's a good dude, and I think he's a guy that the Tigers are certainly proud to trot out there on day one.
Do you think the Tigers have a greater shot at making the playoffs now with this shortened season?
I'd love to believe it. And I love your optimism in everything. And I try to be an optimistic person too, Carly, but no, I don't. I just think, again, when you're not able to trot out top of the line starters for most of the time, and you're going to rely probably on a guy like Michael Fulmer, who hasn't pitched in so long against major league hitting consistently, he's great. And I think the world of Fulmer, and I think he will bounce back from this. But I think when you don't have pitching, there are so many question marks in that bullpen, and you have a lot of hitters too that really have not proven themselves as consistent major league players. Like there's hope. There's hope in what's next in Torkelson and Mize, Riley Green, and the guys we've talked about. But I don't think that hope does this team many favors this year. I think they're going to struggle. I think they may be in last place in this division. I think it'll really show. If not right away, it'll show pretty soon because there are some hungry teams in a few divisions. I think the White Sox have made some drastic improvements. I think the Royals could surprise some people. I just don't see it for this Tigers team, and I hate to be the pessimist in the room, but you got to talk about reality too sometimes.
It's a tough league, completely understandable. All right, and how do you feel having no fans in the ballpark will affect their play, if at all?
They got the crowd noise, right? They got the crowd noise from MLB The Show, so it's all the same. It's weird, right? I was watching the White Sox and Cubs, like I said, and they were saying, Chipper Jones was on the broadcast. He's on the broadcast team, the Hall of Famer, and Anthony Rizzo used to heckle him in spring training. There's going to be no heckling. There's going to be no cheering. There's going to be none of it. It's weird. And in covering golf like I did at Detroit Golf Club a few weeks ago, some of the guys said, you kind of feed off it. You're waiting for it. But then there's kind of new avenues you have to learn. When they go out to stretch and they go out to warm up, they don't have to get out there a few minutes early because they anticipate signing autographs. So how does that change their day? When they leave the ballpark, there's nobody asking for an autograph because they can't interfere with them. When they're, getting out to the batting circle and fans are yelling or fans are talking, or it's all changing. It's all different. And I think like so much of what we're doing in our lives, we have to adapt. And I thought one of the most interesting questions that Gardenhire has been asked throughout this summer camp was, how will this pandemic affect not just the team this year, but this Tigers rebuild? And he goes, I don't know. I don't know if anyone knows the answer to that. Like, how does anyone know how any of this is going to affect the future when we don't know what the future is going to hold or how things will change next season? We could be looking at a similar situation for next year. So no fans will be weird, but they do have a job to do, and we know the money they get paid and that money down the road isn't guaranteed once their contracts expire. So they're going to go out and try to prove themselves. And I think that kind of speaks to what you were saying, that hopeful optimism in some of these youthful bats. Maybe they'll come out and surprise some people and give Tigers fans something fun to watch.
Absolutely. I know that's all Tiger fans want to see is some baseball. And I know baseball players That's all they want to do right now, and that's all they can do. But Brad, thank you so much for joining me on Catching Up with Carly. I really appreciate it, and I can't wait to see you at the ballpark in this season.
You know what? And pay your interior decorator a little extra money because it's really looking fantastic. I want to commend you a ton.
He's an interior decorator. I got off easy.
It's great.
Well, Brad, thank you so much once again. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Carly, and thank you, Brad. Carly, stick around, and we're going to bring back Art because it's time for Bet You Didn't Know, presented by Motor City Casino Hotel. And again, Art holds all the answers today. And last time he held the answers, he gave Carly and I the answer before he even gave the question. So, Art, we don't have a high standard for you right now. So it's okay. Art is
you know, rightly so. If you're dishing it out, you have to take it. And so he put all on me today because this question can go one of two ways. Either you're going to get it right away, or it's really going to be a stumper. I mean, there's no in between. I know you're going to discuss amongst yourselves once I give you the question, and then you're going to hold up cards at the same time with the answer, right? So, I mean, this is a very elaborate production today, and I can't wait to see it. And you know, Carly, I understand broccoli is a brain food, so if you need to reach over and grab a piece off the wall, go right ahead. So, with that said, here we go. Which Tiger has started the most opening days in a Detroit uniform? Which player started the most opening days for the Tigers? A, Alan Trammell, B, Al Kaline, C, Jack Morris, or D, Miguel Cabrera? So that's it. It's pretty simple. One of these players has started the most opening days for the Tigers. Which player is it?
I'm already writing my answer because
I
think I'm confident. I think I'm confident. Is that?
I don't know. I feel like I know.
Well, I'm going to eliminate Cabrera, right?
What?
All right. I mean, come on. It's, you know, Trammell, Kaline, Morris, Cabrera.
My answer is on the back of this. It bled through, so I have to cover it.
Oh shoot! This is not looking good.
Out of ink there, Carly?
Yikes! It's been a while since I hand wrote anything. Oh my!
She can't write a letter.
Yikes!
Why don't you just spell it out why don't you spell it out with those broccoli cloves behind you?
It's moss.
All right, which player started the most opening days for the Tigers? Are you both ready?
We're ready.
Okay, I'm going to count to 3 and then do it. 1, 2, 3. B, Al Kaline.
I can't.
Well, that's pretty rough. It is Al Kaline. Al Kaline, the late great Mr. Tiger, started 21 times.
Wow.
Opening days.
Beautiful.
Has been in 21 opening days. You know, just you know, obviously, you know, Al is you know, is in our hearts. I know the Tigers are going to do something special on the home opener for Mr. Kaline and on opening night too. As a matter of fact, he started 21 starts. Alan Trammell had 16 starts. He's tied for the third most opening day starts with Ty Cobb. Second on that list at 17 starts, right behind Al Kaline, is Lou Whitaker. So that's, you know, pretty interesting. Jack Morris actually started 11 opening days for the Detroit Tigers, 14 overall in his whole career when he was with Toronto and Minnesota. That is the second most in Major League history, but it's actually an American League record, if I remember correctly, when we had Jack on. He holds the American League record, I believe. I'm not sure. Check me on this. I thought Tom Seaver or somebody for the Mets had the most, the baseball record, the National League record. Jack is the American. His start. We'll him.
All right, guys, it looks like we did lose our speed there. So that will wrap it up for today's Bet You Didn't Know, presented by Motor City Casino Hotel. Carly and I didn't get a chance to pat ourselves on the back. That was a good one. And Carly, I know that you have been all over social media and you've got some news for us. So take it away.
That is right, Daniela. First off, we're going to start with some baby news. Huge congratulations to Adam Ernie and his wife. They're expecting their second child in January, a baby boy. The couple has a little girl, Riley, together already, and they're excited to add another. And then on to the Tigers. They posted an Instagram showing the guys having some fun at camp. Most notably, let's check out this picture of Nico Goodrum using a baseball bat as a golf club, saying in the comments section that he definitely needs to work on that form and needs some golf lessons. I know a lot of the Red Wings players like to golf in their off season, so maybe we could get him together with someone. And then looking forward to Daniel Norris. We heard some good news coming from PR. They announced today that Daniel Norris has been cleared to join the player pool after missing summer camp. He's been out, so he's really eager to get back. I read an article about him saying that the hardest part is just sitting and watching everyone. He says he's been trying really hard not to let it get to him, but so happy to see him back. Really looking forward to seeing what he can do. And let's see if we'll see him on the mound this season. That's all I have for now. Make sure you send in your questions, you guys, because I will be back later in the show to answer them.
Thank you, Carly. Great to hear about Daniel Norris being back, and he will participate in the workouts at Comerica Park today. You guys, we've still got a lot coming up in today's show. We're going to talk to Dan Dickerson in Breast Street Beat, and later in the show, Art is going to talk to the Athletics' Cody Stavenhagen. But right now, it's time for Downtown Hockey Town, everybody. And as I said, Ken Kal, he's making a double appearance on our show today. So we're going to bring in Ken now, like I said, for Downtown Hockey Town, presented by Labatt Blue Light. Ken, oh, you did change your shirt. I love it.
He must be going out on the boat after this is over.
You got that right. But this is, I'm going to tell you something. This is in honor of our social media guru, Andrew Kristoff, who recently celebrated his 30th birthday. And he's getting hitched pretty soon. So he was planning on going to Hawaii, but he had to cancel because of the COVID situation. So all the best on getting married soon. And this is in honor of you, my man, and happy birthday. And I know you'll enjoy your honeymoon wherever it may be.
That's right. Andrew Bossman Kristoff, happy 30th birthday. And of course, like you said, congratulations. I thought you had something to say there, Art.
Well, I mean, I can go on about Andrew. He and Stacy Burlingame. She's the boss lady. So boss man and boss lady, winning combination. They're not getting married to each other, even though they are getting married weeks apart from one another. So I don't know. Read into that what you want. But they're both great young people. Really enjoy working with them. They're kind of in my same department, along with Dana Wakiji. It's kind of like the four of us, and it's a really good group, and we have a lot of fun. And but that's a nice touch there, Kenny. I know that the boss man, I know Andrew Carl Kristoff would really appreciate that. As a matter of fact, he's probably going to tweet that out and somehow put it on social media. He'll probably have you in your suit and tie, your blue or your blue shirt with your blue tie, and then your Hawaiian shirt, and an A and B, kind of like what we're doing for Miggy. Who wore which look suits Cal the best, the Hawaiian shirt or the shirt and tie, or something like that? If I know Andrew like I know him, so that's cool though. Very, very nice move.
I'm voting for the Hawaiian shirt, just so you know. But we're here to talk about some of the NHL awards. Ken, Art and I talked about them earlier in the Big Three, but we definitely want to see what you think about some of our finalists. And we're going to start with the Masterton Award for perseverance, sportsmanship, and dedication to hockey. We've got Stephen Johns out of Dallas, Oscar Lindbaum out of Philly, and Bobby Ryan out of Ottawa. So Art and I also touched on this. All three of these guys are very deserving. They've all been through some hardships, overcame a lot of things, and are still in and playing the game of hockey. So if you had to pick one of those three guys, Ken, who are you picking?
Well, was Trevor Daley, wasn't he the member that was for the Detroit Red Wings? Wasn't he the Masterton nominee for the Red Wings this year, Art?
Yes, he was. Each team, just in case you know, each team, like the Hockey Writers Association in each team, each chapter, the beat writers, which I believe would be Ansar Khan, Helena St. James, and Teddy Colfin, and I would nominate somebody, or they get together, they ask different people, and then they nominate one player from their team. Trevor Daley was the Red Wings nominee this year.
And good for him. He certainly overcame adversity as well. And I think everyone that's nominated should get something for it. But if you knock it down to the three right here, Johns, Lindblom, and Ryan, all three deserving, as you mentioned, Daniela, all three different stories. Bobby Ryan is a guy that I think when he came out, he was talking about his alcohol problem. He actually kind of saw the light at the end of the tunnel here in Detroit. And I think that's when everything changed for him, where he said he needed to get some help. And we certainly hope that he's doing really well. But I think Lindblom is the guy that should probably win it. A cancer diagnosis is not fun, and it's not right. It's not for anybody. Someone who's an athlete, who's in great, and then all of a sudden your career is in jeopardy. But he struggled through it. He's doing good right now. So I guess if I had to pick one of them, to be Oscar Lindblom.
I agree with you there, Ken. And guys, just a little correction. I think we got the years flipped up. It was Robbie Fabry that was the Red Wings nominee for the Masterton Award this year. You guys might have been thinking a year back, because I think it was at that point Trevor Daley. But we'll move on. Selke Trophy. And this one is the forward who excels in defensive aspects. We've got Patrice Bergeron out of Boston, Sean Couturier from Philly, and Ryan O'Reilly out of St. Louis. Now, Ken, Art and I lean towards Patrice Bergeron, but we felt maybe it's because we see him so much here in Detroit. But who do you think is got the best shot at this award?
Got to be Bergeron. The reason why I'm saying that is because he plays in all different types of situations. He can score, and he can shut the other team's best players down as well. And he's one of the best in the faceoff circle as well. And he's won a lot in the past. But it's the same thing like when Nicholas Lidstrom in Detroit. What other defenseman was better than Nicholas Lidstrom? I know there are other winners. I know Pronger, but Nick was the best at his position. He should have won 5 or 6 more times. I mean, who is better than Nicholas Lidstrom? And I guess the reasoning behind it is you can't give the same player the award all the time, but I don't look at it that way. I think if you're good at your position and good at what you do, then you're deserving. Bergeron and Couturier.
Hey, Art, why don't you pick it up with the Vezina Trophy? We'll talk about this one again. We talked about this in the Big Three and in the mailbag with Ken Kale, Connor Hellebuck out of Winnipeg, Tuukka Rask out of Boston, and Andrei Vasilevsky out of Tampa Bay. You've had some time to think about this one. You still picking Vasilevsky?
I probably am still going to go with Andrei Vasilevsky because when he was selected, I believe it was 19th overall in the draft. That was a pick that Steve acquired from the Red Wings for Kyle Quincy. And so it was like a 3-team trade with Colorado was also involved in that deal. The Red Wings got Quincy. Eventually Tampa got Vasilevsky. And I forget who ended up in Colorado. I think it was a Red Wing. But anyway, with that said, I mean, I think that this is really, really tough. As we alluded to, as Ken said, not every goaltender has been really, really dominant. I mean, there have been some very, very good goaltenders this year, or some good goaltending. Some have great statistics. I think I would say that Connor Hellebuck, the situation, as I said, the pressure down in Winnipeg is is really pressure packed. He's a big goalie. I know that he's from here. I'd love to see him win it. I think, as Ken alluded to earlier in the show today, that Hellebuck was a guy that Winnipeg was thinking this was our weak link. And then he came on, and he won a tremendous amounts of games. I think it was like over 30, maybe even in the 40s. He kind of had his coming out party. Then he kind of, dipped down a little bit, but, he was able to get it back. Winnipeg's a really interesting team. If you look at it, they have kind of a lot of Michigan connections, not just University of Michigan connections with Andrew Kopp and Kyle Connor. But with Hellebuck, I mean, they seem to, and Jacob Trouba, who they ended up trading to the Rangers in the offseason last year, was also University of Michigan from the Detroit area. So Winnipeg's always one of those teams that I kind of follow because it does have such a local connection. But it'd be nice about Hellebuck, but Vasilevsky, when he's on, I mean, he's unbelievable. He's just unbelievable. He's still very, very young. And, Tampa's going to be good for a long, long time, simply because, first and foremost, Steve built a pretty darn good club down there. And secondly, Vasilevsky and net. When you have a goaltender that's that dominant, and we always hear this, Danielle, how many times do we hear about Montreal and Carey Price? There was a time that Montreal, if Carey Price is on, Montreal has a chance to win each and every single game. That's the type of goaltender Vasilevsky is. And, and nothing against Tuukka Rask, because Tuukka Rask is outstanding. Hellebuck is really starting to blossom and come into his own. So they're all deserving. I mean, when you get down to a 3 finalists of a major award in a professional sport, I mean, you can make a concrete case for all 3 of the finalists. But I think in the end, in my book, Vasilevsky's still the guy.
The Russian goalie, Art. I'm not surprised, but I'm getting word that Ken Kell is having a bit of internet issues. Art and I are going to wrap up this segment of Downtown Hockey Town for you, but I don't think Ken can hear me right now. But do you see what happens when he doesn't wear a shirt and tie? This is why he's always in a shirt and tie. So we're going to move on to the Norris Trophy, the last one of our segment today. Art, here are the nominees again: John Carlson, Victor Hedman, and Roman Josi. So which one of these guys are you taking to win this Norris Trophy?
Well, I just want to say this, and it alludes to what Ken was talking about earlier before he lost his feed. Nick Lidstrom was the best player, best defenseman for a long, long time and didn't get the award. That's because the Canadian press was obsessed with giving it to a big strapping Canadian lad. And so, but if you look at it now, Victor Hedman's the best defenseman in the NHL, in my humble opinion. Was he the best this season? Boy, I tell you, Roman Josi has been a great, great defenseman for Nashville. Nashville's blue line is really, really underrated. So I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he won it. I mean, he's deserving, and certainly I think that. But Hedman might be the best. Not this year, Victor. Hold your horses, buddy. Roman Josi, has your time finally come? Are you recognized? You're wearing the C for the Predators. Is this the year where where they finally say, you probably deserve this a couple of years ago at least, but we're going to give it to you this year? I think not. I think John Carlson's year in Washington is historic. I mean, he was on the verge of really being an offensive dynamo. I know, he's a defenseman. That's why when you always look at the Norris, you say, well, geez, okay, he's got points. Does he play great defense? He's a good defenseman as well. I just think that John Carlson, I think, I probably should have looked up his stats here, but I know he had at least 60 assists. He had a lot of points. Madison Bowie wears his number in Detroit because they were teammates in Washington when the Wings traded Nick Jensen to get Madison a couple of years back. He really talked about it. He talks to John Carlson a lot, Madison Bowie. I know Madison actually even said that when we had him on the Word on Woodward about a month or so ago. So I think that Carlson is a great teammate. I think he's a leader. And I just believe that, it's Carlson's year. I think John Carlson, you could have made a case for him last year too. I think John Carlson has really, really come into his own. And you know what happens a lot in these awards, Daniela? is that I can remember when Vladdy Konstantinov, before the tragic accident, I think that year he finished second in the Norris Trophy voting. I don't know if it was Chris Pronger or whomever won it. And then the common, the conventional wisdom is Vladdy's going to get it next year. Unfortunately, and it breaks my heart to say this, there wasn't a next year for Vladdy. And then Nick was deserving, but you got to give it to that big strapping Canadian lad. But Nick was just too good. Nick's coming out party was that was that triple overtime game in the 2002 Stanley Cup Finals, Game 3, Saturday night. ABC television, ABC TV, nationally broadcast. Al Michaels calling it. He plays almost 60 minutes in that game. From that moment on, Nick got the recognition he deserved and won the trophy. So I guess what I'm saying is that maybe Carlson was deserving of this maybe the last couple of years. Roman Yossi's always in the mix, but this year I think it's Carlson's year.
I tend to agree with you, Art. We thought that was going to be the last one, but we actually just got the finalist for the Hart Trophy. So, Art, I'm going to let you break this one down for us. Edmonton Oilers, Leon Draisaitl, Colorado Avalanche, Nathan MacKinnon, and New York Rangers, Artemi Panarin, are the finalists for the 1920 Hart Memorial Trophy. What do you think about the nominees, and who do you think is going to take the cake there?
Well, McKinnon's the heart and soul of the Avalanche. I mean, he was a very high draft choice. He's always been a great player, but he is just exceptional. He's world class. He is at the elite level. The bread man, what can you say about Panarin? He signs a big contract, goes to New York City, and plays for the Rangers, no less. Right there in downtown Manhattan, Madison Square Garden, all kinds of pressure on him. And boom, all he does is produce. The Rangers are one of the dark horse candidates to win, the Stanley Cup, or a team to watch out for, basically because Panarin is such a great player. And then they also have a young Russian goalie who's also a stud, by the way. His name escapes me right now, but if you look at it that way, but Draisaitl, I think it's tough not to go with Leon Draisaitl. Edmonton is supposedly Connor McDavid's team, and it is. Connor McDavid's the best player in the league. I think we all know that. Yet, Leon Draisaitl proved he's a pretty close second. I mean, when McDavid, left. I mean, if you read all the papers and all that kind of stuff, woe is me. The Oilers. What's going to happen without Connor McDavid? And as Harna Ryan Singh pointed out when we had him on, he, grabbed the bull by the horns, the brass ring on the merry-go-round, so to speak, and he, all he did was lead that team. I mean, Draisaitl, I guess he showed more that he's not just a second banana or second fiddle, or he's not going to take a back seat to Connor McDavid. And I mean that in a positive way. I mean, he is, nothing against Connor McDavid. Like McDavid saying, hey, this is my team, Leon, cool it. I'm not saying anything like that. What I am saying is that this is a nice thing to have. And I think that, in a strange sense, if you were to talk to Ken Holland, I know the circumstances are different, but I kind of look at this like a Steve Yzerman, Sergei Fedorov situation. I mean, you've got two of the greatest players in the world are on the same team. I always said that, Steve and Sergei were two of the top 5 centers in the entire world on the same team. While you look at the Edmonton Oilers, I think 2 of the top 5 elite hockey players in the world are on the same team. So I think it's Draisaitl's award to win.
That will definitely be an interesting one. And of course, as we have more news on that, we will be giving it to you. And thank you to Ken Kal, even though that it was cut short, for being our Downtown Hockey Town guest, presented by Labatt Blue Light. Of course, a thank you to Labatt Blue Light. Labatt Blue Light, refreshing Canadian Pilsner. Visit your local retailer when safe to pick up some Labatt Blue Light. All right, guys, as we've mentioned a few times now, it is Tigers opening day on Friday, so we're going to get back into all that Tigers talk and get into Brush Street Beat, presented by McLaren. Our guest for today is our other radio broadcaster, Dan Dickerson. Dan, thank you so much for joining us, as always.
Oh, of course. Always good to see you guys.
Before we get into talking
my favorite
about
broadcaster on.
Oh, no. You can't start that when we have them both on, Art. Well, Dan, before we get into talking about opening day, a couple of questions for you. There's been a little bit of news for the Tigers. They sent 19 players down to Toledo, and just recently, a couple hours ago, Daniel Norris has been cleared to join the Tigers in their workout today. So I want you to touch on both of those things. With the 19 players that were sent to Toledo, were there any surprises for you? And then Daniel Norris, of course, what does that mean for the Tigers pitching staff?
No, not really on the Toledo list. And I think just keep an eye on, I think everybody's very clear about what's going to happen probably with Casey Mize, that if you keep him down there for, a little more than a week, you get an extra year of control. General managers can't talk about it. They're in a very tough spot. Let's face it. They can't talk about something like that. But I mean, that is the logic. That is the reality. I'm not a big fan of pushing, not starting someone's clock, but I mean, this is a reality for a general manager. If Casey Mize comes up in 8 to 10 days, they had 6 more years of control instead of losing a year. And in a 60-game season, that just makes absolute sense. It's another way of saying Casey Mize, I think, will be up here sooner rather than later. He was very impressive in the summer camp, and there's probably going to be a need for a starting pitcher. Right now, I think they've got everything filled in the starting rotation, but that's certainly the name to keep an eye on. You're going to watch again for when Tarek Skubal gets cleared to come back, Matt Manning. These guys are going to be working hard, and I think they'll get a chance to at least pitch in the major leagues at some point this year. Daniel Norris coming back is great news. I think the Daniel Norris story, and along with DJ LeMahieu, who was recuperating here at home after he tested positive for COVID-19 with the Yankees, these two are instructive of what we might see with other players this year. They feel good. They keep testing positive. And this is something that's going to happen. So that a positive test doesn't necessarily mean you'll just be out for maybe a week or two. It can be several weeks, and it can be puzzling because you're asymptomatic, but you just can't get those 2 negative tests. Apparently, this does happen with this virus. So I think the Daniel Norris story coupled with DJ LeMahieu are 2 examples of guys who feel great, asymptomatic now for several weeks. They can't get those 2 negative tests in a row like they need. And I think that's the thing that we learned from both of those cases. It's great to have Daniel back. No way he's in the rotation to start the season, but they'll try to figure out very quickly, where is he? But he has to throw a simulated game or get into games at 1, 2, 3 inning stints before he can probably think about even being an opener or a piggyback starter like he was at the end of last year. Maybe he and Michael Fulmer end up splitting that 5th starter spot or 4th, whatever you want to call it. That seems like that might make sense in the weeks ahead.
Dan, I don't know if you can answer this question or not, but when Daniel Norris was recuperating or had to sit out, was he allowed to work out? Was he trying to stretch his arm, or did he have to just basically quarantine himself and not do much, just seeing where, unfortunately, where COVID-19 was going to take him?
Yeah, that's a great question, Arden. I've read a lot about it, but I'm not quite clear on that. It's something I should probably try to get clarity on. In other words, you're supposed to, if you have it and are symptomatic, you can't do anything, right? Because it's something that affects the lungs and your major organs. But he was asymptomatic. He says he's been asymptomatic. I think it's now 2-3 weeks. And I'm guessing that, I think he has said as much. I'm working out, I'm fit, I'm ready. And that's, some guys like Freddie Freeman with Atlanta, they had it bad. And I know he wasn't working out, and it's going to take some time for him probably to get back to full strength. So you're just going to have different cases. But I think when you're asymptomatic and yet you're still not getting those negative tests, yes, I'm guessing, I know Daniel Norris was, and I'm guessing others too are able to work out and maintain that strength so that they can be as ready to go as they can possibly be going into, well, now the regular season. He'll probably pitch, I think if he's been cleared, he'll probably pitch almost certainly in one of the 2 exhibition games either today or tomorrow in Cincy.
It'll be interesting to see where he does fall in that lineup, Dan. Let's focus on opening day, which is Friday. We know Matt Boyd is going to be the starting pitcher. But when you look at every other position, can you run us through who you think the starting 9 will be?
Yeah, I think we got a real clear indication who the starting nine would be in the summer camp. The infield is going to be Candelario at third, Goodrum at short, Scope at second, and Crone at first. And by the way, I think one of the things we talked about during the broadcasts of the intra-squad games was you added Scope and Crone for their power, but also remember these are plus defenders at first and at second for Scope. You had Goodrum, who was a plus at shortstop. Candelario is a plus at third. This infield defense is going to be miles ahead of last year's infield defense, which was well below average. That's a real plus. Outfield in left, it's going to be Kristen Stewart. In center, it's going to be Jacoby Jones. And in right, it's going to be Cameron Maben. Victor Reyes was so good during the summer camp that I think he clearly is pushing, and he finished so strong last year. He's definitely making a push to get equal playing time. And I can really picture those four outfielders, assuming they all stay healthy and assuming those improvements we saw from Kristen Stewart are the real deal. And most people believe they are, that this kid's about to break out. You can see those four outfielders sharing all the at-bats that three outfielders would normally get. Kristen Stewart, I mean, you're going to see this right here. See that line drive? That's what he was doing all summer camp. It was a ton of line drives everywhere. A great sign for Kristen Stewart and a big improvement even from spring training of this year, and it was noticeable. So that's your outfield. Miggy's your DH most days. Romaine's behind the plate. The bench almost certainly, I don't think they made it official yet. They got to make it official tomorrow, but you've got a backup catcher. That's going to be Griner. You're going to have reserves on the infield. And remember, position flexibility is key. So you've got Harold Castro for sure. You've got Jordy Mercer in the mix. And again, because of position flexibility, I think he's going to be on the team. Victor Reyes, again, is a fourth outfielder, so that puts him on the bench. That's four guys. You're probably going to have five. And then that fifth spot becomes tricky. Probably Dowell Lugo, even though he's really just a third baseman. They didn't really like him at second base a couple of years ago. But if you try to send him to Toledo, then he is going to be exposed to waivers and you have a chance of losing it. And right now, he is your organizational depth at third base. So that's how I look at the starting five plus, or starting nine plus the five off the bench.
Well, you know, it's interesting when you really look at this, and we talked about. I guess what's intriguing to me when I look at the infield is that Jeimer Candelario seems to have turned it around a bit. I mean, there was, you know, we talked about it on several shows, Dan, about, you know, where really is he at? I don't know. Maybe the fact that the Tigers seem to be drafting third baseman constantly in the last couple of drafts, you know, kind of woke him up a little bit. But he certainly seems like he's ready to play, yes, and that he can have a really, really big year for Detroit.
He did, and what you saw right there when he stretched what looked like a single into a double, I think that that kind of showed you his renewed energy, if you will, and he's doing things like that, driving the ball the opposite way to the left center field gap from the left side. Those are the things that we saw from Jeimer Candelario when he started so well. Remember, that was in 2018, though, and it's been a long time since we've seen that. They still believe in this young man, but I think him working out in the Dominican with Robinson Cano during this hiatus from March until July, I think there were probably some things on the mental focus and toughness side of the equation that Robinson Cano really helped him with. And the talent is there. There's no question about it. But when I saw him on a ground ball single to center, get to second base, that just kind of showed me, all right, this kid really wants to show something. I think your point's a good one, Art. They keep drafting third baseman. They've got others that they really like, pushing him a little bit. And I think that competition's been really good for Jeimer Candelario. If he and Kristen Stewart both improve like we think they might be able to this year at the plate, that's just huge for this offense.
Dan, I want to ask you a bit of a personal question about what your job is going to entail as the Tigers season approaches here. So you're not going to be at the away games. You're going to be calling the games with Jim Price from Comerica Park. Explain to us how that's going to work, because I'm really interested to see how this is going to change for you.
Yeah, I'm interested too. Maybe you can help me figure it out. So yeah, I mean, we might travel. I might travel to a couple of the road trips, but right now it looks like all the road games are going to be called from Comerica Park. I'm actually going to go down today to try to see what the setup looks like. We're not going to have a look at the Cincinnati Tigers exhibition games, but we are going to get a feed in today from another exhibition game so that we can have a look at what I will have available to me. The biggest thing I want to be able to do is have a view of the entire field, both before the pitch so I can set the defense. And then once the ball is put in play, I'll be watching what all fans are watching, the program feed, but that's a center field shot. So I can see ground ball, but there's obviously going to be a delay before the director cuts to the next camera angle. I want to be able to look at a shot that I can quickly adjust my eyes, maybe look to the right and see where the ball is in play, where it's going. I saw that he hit a ground ball from that center field view. Is it a routine ground ball to third, or is it a ground ball that's going to squeeze in between the shortstop and the third baseman? I want to be able to call that as quickly as possible. I don't want to be too far behind the play. That's going to be very frustrating, but that's going to be part of the reality of calling a game off a monitor. But there is that high, they call it, a high home static shot at every ballpark where you can see the whole field. That's going to be an important shot. So I'm going to get a look at that today just to see, watch a game just to see how quickly I can pick up the ball, or at least where the fielders are moving so I can get an idea where the ball is. And then we'll have some other camera shot. But think of all the things that, and this goes for everybody on TV as well, the shots that they don't get when they want to be able to analyze some things on TV. We're going to need bullpen shots to see if there's somebody up and warming in the bullpen. We're going to have constant communication with Chad Crunk, whoever from the media relations department is on the road. Say, this weekend in Cincinnati, are there any defensive substitutions? If we don't have the bullpen shot, are there pitchers up and warming? All those little things the information you get from the in-press box PA announcer, scoring decisions. Scorers are going to be working from home. That's another thing that I feel bad for them that they have to deal with. So there's just a lot of things you're going to have to get used to. It's going to have to be very concentrated, make sure you're communicating throughout the course of the game, but also just learning how to call a game off a monitor. And hopefully the camera angles we have will provide us at least with a live look that I can keep up, or at least sound like I'm not too far behind the action. People are going to hear, I can tell you right now, you're going to hear, here's the 2-2 pitch. You're going to hear the crack of the bat. And I'm not going to be saying anything because I'm going to wait to see, swing, ground ball, swing, line drive. But I'm going to wait to see, is that a line drive right to the shortstop, or is that a line drive up the gap in left center field? So that's the kind of thing. It might be a little odd to listen to sometimes, but hopefully, I'll get into a rhythm and a feel for how to do it off a monitor.
It's interesting, Dan, that you would bring this up because I don't know if you have any political aspirations. But, Ronald Reagan, used to just use the ticker tape and call games that way. So, if you can do this, I mean, maybe you step out of the booth and step right into Washington, right into the White House or something like that.
I'll leave that to you. You seem like you have the gift of being able to spin anything.
Well, you know what, Dan? I'm going to tell you something. I know, we have talked about hot dogs before on this show about how you like the grilled ballpark Frank. And I know when you do the road games, it's going to be you and Jim. So I'm going to make a little bit of a sacrifice here for you because we're friends. We're a long time. Yeah. I knew you when you were a hell of a newsman. So, I mean, I've known Double D a long, long time. I am going to send this to you. This is my hot dog maker. Makes two and even toast buns. And, you can tell the hot dogs are, they love, they're really happy guys. This is just like the grill at Comerica.
Come on.
You will love these. They're excellent. So you won't be by yourself. You and if Double Wow even eats hot dogs, which I called, this is a hot dog maker for you, my friend. This is you.
Don't tease me. You better not be teasing me.
No, I'm telling you the truth, buddy, because it's going to be rough. I'm not going to say as you're making it up as you go along, but in a way you are. But you're going to have a hot dog, a nice treat there to get you through the tough times, especially those rainouts.
Oh my gosh.
You'll be using this thing a lot. a rain delay is going to be. What are you going to be doing? There's a rain delay in Pittsburgh, and I'm sitting in a sunny Comerica Park. I'm eating a hot dog, baby.
Right.
I'm eating a hot dog, enjoying the fresh air. This is I am loaning this to you for the season. Hey,
oh my gosh!
Don't even thank me.
That's a true sign of friendship, and I appreciate it. When you think about it, Jim and I, along with our engineer Tim Jetsky, are going to be the only people in the ballpark other than security people on Friday for opening day. How weird is that?
And your hot dog maker.
At least you'll have a hot
You have to bring a hot dog
maker.
to fun. Don't worry, you
security guys
will never go hungry. You will never go hungry. I actually have a baseball question to ask you. We talk about the starting pitching. What about the bullpen? Should we be concerned? I think there's a lot of good arms there, but they're probably unproven at this point. But Tigers fans, the Achilles heel has always been, the bullpen. But is it bullpen starting to come together? Do you see something there, Dan?
It is very easy to look at it and say, well, there's not much experience there, and it's not going to be very good again this year. But I really believe that they put some nice pieces together. It will be an experience, and that's not a small thing. But you got Jimenez. You start with Jimenez and Farmer. Farmer looked great during the summer camp. What I look for, Art and Daniela, is the ability to get swings and misses. And they do have guys on this staff who showed last year, either in short stretches or longer stretches, that they can get the swings and misses that you need in today's game, period. So to me, the back end is Jose Cisnero, who looked terrific in spring, big power arm. He gets swings and misses. He's in the 7th, Farmer's in the 8th, and you got Joey Menez in the 9th inning. Now, to supplement those guys, they've tried to build a staff that can go multiple innings because, let's face it, you're going to lean on your bullpen a lot in the opening weeks. And who knows, maybe for most of the year, that certainly has been the trend in baseball, that the bullpens are soaking up more innings. So who are the guys that are going to be key? I think Nick Ramirez is going to be another key. Pitched 80 innings last year. I think he's refined his stuff. He's got a wicked changeup that gets swings and misses. David McKay gets swings and misses. 29 strikeouts in 19 innings with the Tigers last year. John Schreiber's a different look, and he gets swings and misses as well. 15 strikeouts his last 10 innings of last year. I mean, these are some of the guys. Gregory Soto has a chance to take a big step up. The key for him, he has swing and miss stuff, but he doesn't get a lot of swings and misses. It's a power arm, 96 to 98 from the left side, has to have a better slider this year, but that's a guy to watch because of all the guys who might take a big jump up this year. I think Gregory Soto is probably right at the top of the list. So at least you've got some nice pieces. I really believe that. You've got Nolan Blackwood, who's a side armor who can maybe make an impact, even though he was a Double-A last year. They love the look, and that's a guy that I think we're going to see in a Tigers uniform at some point this year, if not right at the start. So there are some pieces. I know you can look at it and say, well, there's not a lot of experience there, but because they have some experience in the major leagues in getting swings and misses and the chance to develop, and it says Narrow, I think it will develop further. I know he's 30, but this is a guy who'd been out for 5 years. I think he's going to build on last year. I think Schreiber and McKay can build on last year. And I think Ramirez can build on last year. Those are 4 nice pieces. And then you start adding the other guys. Brian Garcia is another arm that I would mention, a guy who was on the fast track to be a closer for the Tigers, and he had Tommy John surgery a couple of years ago. Brian Garcia feels really good right now. I don't think you can judge a lot on radar gun readings, and I know his velocity was down a little bit, but that's an electric arm when it's right. And then the other guy I would probably keep an eye on, just because it's a power arm that came out of nowhere in spring, Xiaoqing Zhang. In his first year, it has a big power arm, and he's a short arm thrower, which means you don't get a good look at it. He brings it right from this slot, and it gets on you quick at 97 miles an hour. I think he is going to get a chance to prove that he can very quickly maybe move into a important late inning role protecting leads. So there are some pieces there. I have no idea. There's a long way to go. Let's face it. This is a team that gave up 900 runs last year, 900 plus runs last year. It was one of the worst totals in Tigers history. There's a long way to go, but I really do believe they've got pieces to be a whole lot better this year in the bullpen.
Dan, we are going to let you go because I know that you have a lot of preparation to do for Friday night. And hey, Monday we'll be back at Comerica Park. So that's exciting. But I do have to tell you one thing. Hank, one of our faithful Word on Woodward viewers, says that he wants to get a shot of you in the booth making a hot dog. with Art's Hot Dog Maker. So if we don't have cameras on you, you're going to have to take a selfie for us. We'll make sure we get that on social media somehow, but you're going to have to do that, okay?
If Art gets that to me, you'll get that picture.
All right, deal.
Doesn't that
Art, get
look
on
delicious? Oh yeah, definitely.
You made my day.
Well, Dan, thank you so much for joining us. Good luck this week. We're looking forward to Friday, and a big thank you to McLaren for presenting Brush Street Beat this week and every week right here on The Word on Woodward. You guys, you got to be amped for opening day. Like we said, Friday night, the Tigers will be in Cincinnati. It's going to be really exciting. And right now, it is time for our headliner. So I'm going to toss it to Art, who was with the Athletics, Cody Stavenhagen.
Thank you, Daniela. It is time for the headliner presented by Miller Lite. Let's welcome in our guest, Cody Stavenhagen, the beat writer for the Tigers from The Athletic. Cody, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys. Glad to be on.
Wow, I'll tell you what. I mean, those are a lot of press passes that you have hanging there behind you. I mean, what haven't you covered?
Oh man, I've been a little bit of everywhere in just a short amount of time. We got some girls' high school hockey in Minnesota from an internship back here, and a lot of college football, a good amount of baseball too.
Very impressive, and let's get right into it. Your thoughts this far? I mean, the Tigers open the season on Friday, as we know, in Cincinnati. Your impressions of summer camp?
Yeah, I think summer camp, just broke. It was a pretty fun experience. I think we all know going into this season, it's very strange. Everyone's kind of proceeding with a little bit of cautious optimism regarding the pandemic, regarding all the protocols. But I think once guys actually got back on the field, got in the rhythm of taking some BP, playing these inter-squad games, at least the baseball part of it started to feel more normal. And much like spring training, camp was pretty fun because we got to see so much young talent. We got to see guys like Casey Mize and Riley Green really excel on the field. We saw CJ Crone, one of the new additions, slug 4 home runs. So we got to see kind of a lot take shape in a short amount of time, and now we'll see what happens as we kind of head into this 60-game season.
Cody, with a 60-game schedule, do you think the Tigers could actually make a run if they get off to a hot start and their pitching is as good as Tiger fans hope for?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those lines we're going to hear for the next couple of months, but it's also true. Anything can happen in a 60-game season, right? Even for the Tigers, obviously they did lose 114 games last year, but when you look at the strengths of this team, the starting rotation definitely is one of them with Matthew Boyd, who's looked terrific, has a chance to really continue his ascension, maybe to become one of the better pitchers in baseball. Spencer Turnbull has just had a heck of a spring and now a summer. Looks like he's really transformed kind of his body and mind. A lot of us saw the electric stuff he has. It was just, can he hone in on his focus? Can he command a little better, a little more consistently? So far, we've seen him do that. Ivan Nova, a real innings eater, a long history of success, of being a pretty good pitcher at the major league level. So now you have some veteran presence. Obviously, the Tigers go into the season with Jordan Zimmerman on the IL and with Daniel Norris' situation kind of up in the air. But you also have Michael Fulmer back. We'll see what the Tigers can get out of him. And maybe we'll see some other faces mix in that rotation before the end of the year, maybe even some of the young guys like a Casey Mize. So I think it'll be fun to watch. I think especially when you look at Boyd and Turnbull, maybe even Nova, there is reason for optimism in the starting rotation.
You bring up Spencer Turnbull. I thought you wrote something really interesting about the addition of Austin Romine might be the missing link to get Spencer Turnbull to, let's be honest, kind of calm down on the mound and not think too much. Can you talk about that dynamic and that relationship? Because Austin Romine could be the MVP of this club, especially if he can settle down this pitching staff.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and it kind of reminds you the value of just a veteran catcher, something the Tigers didn't quite have last year. They went out in search of one this offseason, and they settled and ended up with Austin Romine, a guy who he hadn't really been quite an everyday starter before, although he did do that for an extended period of time last season in New York when Gary Sanchez was out with an injury. But even with the Yankees, someone with the Yankees told me that Romine was kind of seen as the clubhouse psychologist. in that if guys had a problem, Rehmann was the guy they could talk to. He knew the minds of his pitchers, how to study, how to prepare, how to attack opposing hitters, how to stay calm, stay in the moment. That's kind of the thing more than any of his stats, more than anything else that Austin Rehmann is known for. It's kind of that intangible factor. It's something the Tigers needed, and so far the reviews have been really good. I think Ron Gardenhire loves Austin Rehmann. I think a lot of the pitchers really enjoy working with him too.
When you look at the Tigers starting staff, I know we'll get off and try to ask you about all the other positions and how you think that this 30-man roster is going to shape up on Friday in Cincinnati. I know that they're going to announce it. I think it's on Wednesday, just before they play their second exhibition game against the Reds. But Tyler Alexander and Michael Fulmer, obviously this opens up the door for them. Do you see? I think Tyler Alexander's a pretty good pitcher. I've always been sort of impressed by him. Michael Fulmer, though, is the wild card here. If he can come back and maybe start to eat up some innings, who knows what the Tigers have. How do you see the 4 and 5 starters shaping up?
Yeah, it's really so tough to know what we'll see out of Michael Fulmer this year, but it is a storyline that's kind of invaluable for this team and even going into the future. Can he get back to anywhere close to that Rookie of the Year he was a few years ago? He's talked about cleaning up his delivery, trying to take some pressure off that knee. At the same time, this guy hasn't thrown in a major league game in 22 months, so it is going to take some time to ease back in, probably to build up some innings. We'll see what Ron Gardenhire and Rick Anderson end up doing. Will they throw him in and let him go 5 innings? Will they piggyback him with a guy like a Tyler Alexander? Or maybe, to start the season, do you let Alexander get a start or two of his own? It'll be interesting to see. And yeah, I think that's a good point. Alexander's a guy who gets slept on a little bit because he is kind of seen in this long relief swingman role, but he started some games down the stretch for the Tigers last year. And he pitched really well, especially for a young kid, a rookie. But he's just got some good stuff. He's from that Texas area with a lot of hard throwing guys. He kind of fits that mold. So far, he's done anything they could ask out of him. It'll be interesting to see if he can kind of take that a step further this year. Be a real nice development for the Tigers, regardless of what role they want to use Alexander in.
I would imagine, Cody, from what you've seen, eventually Mize is going to be here in Detroit this season.
I mean, he's really been dynamite in this summer camp. We've seen why he's kind of even ahead above some of the Tigers' other talented young arms like a Matt Manning. Mize, his repertoire is just so polished. He's been throwing this high cutter that he can run in on guys' hands. He's known for this split finger. He throws a 2-seam. He has a breaking ball he can mix in there. He has a deep repertoire, and all those pitches are really sharp. Obviously, that's the reason he was a 1-1 draft pick. He tore up the minor leagues last year before he ran into just a little bit of minor arm trouble. He looks really healthy. He looks like he's taken his game to a whole new level. Watching him out there, he looks like he could be the Tigers' best pitcher, or right there neck and neck with Matthew Boyd. Right now, obviously, there are a variety of reasons the Tigers don't want to rush him in. Whether they'll say it or not, service time surely is at least a consideration. But at the same time, they want to make sure they bring him up when he's ready, when the pieces align for him to really join the rotation. Based on what we've seen out of Casey Mize, it looks like that day is just about here. It would not shock me to see him early this season, and we will see how he fares. But he's just been really impressive. There's no doubt about it.
All right. Unfortunately, we're running out of time here, Cody. I'm obsessed with pitching, as you can tell. But really quickly, I guess if you look at the bullpen, Joe Jimenez, Buck Farmer, probably shoe-ins. Ronnie Garcia is a Rule 5 guy. I don't see him going anywhere. Then, whomever isn't in the starting rotation probably gets bumped to the bullpen. How do you see the bullpen shaping up? I mean, because Tiger fans, the bullpen's always been the bane of their existence. But, there's some pretty good arms in the bullpen, too.
Yeah, the bad news in the bullpen is you don't have those established throwers. I mean, Buck Farmer, who actually had a very nice year last year, is your most established guy. You're still waiting on Jimenez. Can he really become that lockdown closer, or can he not? This might be the type of season in which he has to finally answer that question one way or another. Beyond that, you don't have proven, experienced guys, but the good news, you do have some talented younger arms or guys kind of on the rise, like a Jose Cisnero, like a Gregory Soto, hard-throwing guys, really good stuff. Maybe you could see them kind of blossoming into solid back-end pieces. And it seems like the Tigers have assembled this bullpen to have some depth, to have some length. We've already talked about a guy like Tyler Alexander. Ronnie Garcia could fit that bill. You look at some other guys. We'll see who ends up breaking with the club. But you have like a Dario Agrazal, Xiaoxing Zhang. I mean, you have some other intriguing arms who we know can give you multiple innings. And I think especially in this season, the 60-game thing where not all your pitchers are going to be stretched out, that might be a good way to approach building your bullpen. But I think the real key will be, what do you get out of Jimenez? What do you get out of Soto and Cisnero? Can you really establish multiple consistent, reliable arms? And if you can do that, suddenly you're looking okay.
In our time remaining here, Cody, I hate to do this to you, but I'm going to go infield real quickly here. Obviously first base, CJ Cron, 4 home runs. Looks like he's going to be a fine. Tigers need power. We all know that. Jonathan Scope at second. Obviously, if he can hit some bombs, that's good. Candelario looks like he might have his head on straight or whatever's been going on lately. Looks like he's ready to play. And then obviously Nico Goodrum, who's always wanted to be a shortstop. The infield looks good, I think. And if you look at it, if Goodrum can handle short, and I think he can, how do you see the reserves? How is the infield going to look to you?
Yeah, I'm not out here saying the Tigers are going to go 60-0 or anything, but I think it's totally factual to say this infield is way improved from last year with Cron, with Scope. You have guys who are proven major league guys with a little pop in the bat. Nico Goodrum, man, I think probably the most underrated player on this team. Really a nice piece. I think he could take it to a little bit of a higher level if he's able to stick in that everyday shortstop role, not have to worry about coming to the park and doing this on the lineup card, trying to figure out where he's going to be. Jeimer Candelario is probably the big question. Can he hit like we saw, in the first half of 2018? Can he get it together, consistently? Again, kind of like a Joe Jimenez. This is almost the year he has to answer that question. And you'll have some okay depth. Harold Castro, a guy who sometimes you look at the numbers, the analytics, and you think, how is this guy performing? But it seems like he's always standing on second base. He's hitting the ball in the gap. He's a fun player to watch. Jordy Mercer brings you some of that veteran presence. We'll see how much he does or doesn't play, but another kind of like Rehmann, one of those clubhouse guys that, especially when a young team, actually can be valuable to keep around. And the Tigers have a couple more tough roster decisions to make. Will they keep a guy like Doel Lugo around? Will anyone else surprise there in that infield mix? But I think when you look at kind of that starting 4, no doubt vastly improved over last season.
And outfield, Cameron Maben, Jacoby Jones, Christian Stewart, looks like that's going to be the starters. Bonifacio has looked pretty good. Demerit's been hurt. Outfield-wise, where do you think the Tigers' outfield stacks up?
Yeah, I think the big question marks, can you get improvement out of Kristen Stewart and Jacoby Jones? Stewart's come in and had a really nice camp, hitting line drives all over the place. Looks like that maybe that guy who can figure it out with his second year of big league experience a little bit. We all know he's not a tremendous defender, but you just watch him take batting practice, he probably puts on the best BP show of maybe any Detroit Tiger. He has that power. Can he unlock it? Can he hit against major league pitching? Same thing for Jacoby Jones. We've been hoping to see that for a couple years now. Can he stay healthy? Sometimes we see Jacoby Jones just get on tears at the plate, but he's a streaky hitter for sure. Can he ride one of those good streaks for 60 games? That'd be nice to see. And then Maben, I think a real solid addition, another experienced guy, had a nice year last year with the Yankees, showing that even though he's getting into the latter stage of his career, he's actually developing more power. He went to more of a launch angle, advanced approach. I think for anyone who follows the Tigers, you probably know, but the future is bright, and we really have seen it in spring and summer, not just so much these names on a prospect list, but we've seen these guys real up close in person, and they can play a little bit.
Well, that's certainly a good note to end this portion of the headliner, or this interview on. Cody Stavenhagen, Tigers beat writer from The Athletic. Really appreciate your time. Really enjoy your work with The Athletic, and thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely, I enjoyed it.
All right, there you have it, Daniela. That is the headliner presented by Miller Lite. It is the original light beer. It tastes great, and it's only 96 calories, and also available for delivery. What a great interview. Really enjoy Cody, and it was great having him on. Back to you, Daniela.
It definitely was great to have Cody Art. Thank you both so much. Right now, we're going to get into Let's Socialize, presented by AAA. And of course, we're bringing back Carly for this one. She has been all over the social media channels, finding your questions and comments. So Carly, what do you have for us today?
That's right, Daniela. All right, first up, we've got a question for Art. And I know this is going to send him into a spiral. Art, which NHL team would you be most upset about getting the #1 overall pick?
Wow. Well, there's a couple. Two that come to the top of mind. Of course, Toronto. Those stinking Leafs, no way. Even though your best player is an American, I know that eats away at you Canadians. But with that said, I will also say no. You know what? Actually, I love Canada. I vacation there. It's a really great country. I probably should knock that off a little bit. But with that said, and Pittsburgh. I think those are the two teams, and and obviously Edmonton. Edmonton keeps getting #1 choices all the time. I think those would be the three teams. I think Pittsburgh, though. I kept saying I think the 9th team. I think I rechecked myself. If Pittsburgh were to be upset in this play-in round, they would have the 7th best record in the NHL. If they get the #1 pick, that kind of almost invalidates the league, in my opinion, or at least the draft. I mean, why don't we just throw a bunch of, names in a hat and just draw out teams randomly if you're going to do something like that? So I would have to go Pittsburgh first, followed closely by the Toronto Maple Leafs, and third would be the Edmonton Oilers.
All right, you got 3 teams, not just one. Good to know. All right, moving on to the second question for Daniela. This one's fun. If you were on the Tigers, would you wear your pants rolled up or pulled down to your cleats?
I didn't even have to think about this one. I would be rolling my pants up with some long socks. I love the classic baseball look, right? And I feel like that might stem from being a soccer player because you wear the tall socks when you play soccer. They go all the way to your knees. I don't know, but I really like the socks look. So I'd be pulling socks up with my pants rolled 100%.
I love it, but I wasn't thinking the same reason. I'm thinking, okay, it's been like 90 degrees and humid when they're out there. See, I'd be wearing the no-show socks and pulling my pants up to my knees. It's been hot up at the ballpark, but I do like
You'd be the first baseball player to wear shorts.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right, now this question is for both of you, and we'll start with Art's answer and then go to Daniela's. All right, would you rather rob a home run or make a save on a penalty shot? Art, your answer first.
Wow, that's a tough one. That is really, really a tough one. I would say that probably, wow, that is tough. I would say that, the goaltender seems to be in an advantage on a penalty shot. There's a lot of pressure on the shooter. You break in all by yourself. Andreas Athanasiou, former Red Wing, he was great on breakaways. He was not so good on penalty shots because he had too much time to think about it. A breakaway in the time of the moment. So I would actually say rob a home run because that has such an impact on the game, and that if you're able to go up and take a run off the board that obviously the opposing team thought they were about to get, and the player who you rob, that's got to be a little bit of a mental letdown. So I think the enormity of the situation of robbing someone from a home run is greater than a penalty shot because goals and home runs, runs are hard to get in professional sports. I understand that, but I really do think that in case I'm the hitter. You tag a ball, all right, and you're thinking, okay, I'm about to do my trot, man. I'm gonna be, hey, yeah, here I am. I got a home run going, as you're watching the ball, and then all of a sudden, me, Art Regner, who has been eating hot dogs, in between innings, is running, and I leap, and I just grab that ball, and I fall down just because I don't need to fall down, but I'm falling down before for to be melodramatic for the effect. I'm holding the ball up. I get to my knees. The ball is up. Like I'm kind of like the Statue of Liberty at this point from the end of Planet of the Apes. If you haven't seen it, sorry, I blew the ending. So I'm just kind of like that. And then I just stand up, and my teammates applaud. And then the hitter that I just robbed, he's so disappointed. But then he looks, and then he sees me. He sees the effort. He sees my knees are bloody. And then he just tips his cap to me. And then I just salute him, just like that. And we part our ways. It's definitely robbing the home run.
So this is a dream you've had, right? Because that was a very intense play-by-play. I could picture it. It's like a movie.
You know what? I made that up, but I think I better write it down. I'm sorry. The show's over for me. I got some writing to do.
All right. Well, while you write down your notes, Daniela, which would you rather?
I don't even know how I'm supposed to follow that up, but my first instinct was I agree with Art. Robbing a home run would be a bigger moment in a game than saving a penalty shot. But I honestly, the only thing I can picture right now is Art with a hot dog in his hand, running with a glove on the other, and he jumps and just robbing a home run. So it's really all I can think about right now. But the other thing I was going to say about this is I think if you're making the save and it's like the final save of a shootout or something like that, I think that makes it a little bit more intense. If it's just a penalty shot throughout the game, I'm taking the home run. But if you make it like that very last save of the shootout and your team wins the game, it'd be a lot harder to decide.
I agree wholeheartedly. And I was thinking, obviously, in a home run, you don't know, the bases could be loaded. It could be a grand slam. Like that could be the end of the game. Like that can be like, man, that's a 4-point deficit or something. But a penalty shot could just be one goal in the game. All right. Last but not least, we have the Ken Cal poll of the day. The Detroit Red Wings, Art, thanks to you, posted a poll and wanted to know if you guys like all business Cal better or Hawaiian Cal better. And I mean, come on. It's not even a fair game. Hawaiian Cal won by a landslide. Last I checked, I think it was, I don't even know, like 80% to 20% or so. So yeah, Ken Cal, bring on the Hawaiian shirts. If you need some help with your closet, Sweet Al, one of our graphic designers, Al Scott, has a plethora of Hawaiian shirts in his closet. So love it.
I'll say this about Kenny is a happy guy. Just look at both pictures. He's always smiling. But if I were to catch that home run with a hot dog in my other hand, I would then point up to the sky and I would say, Gates Brown, that's for you, my friend. Gates Brown, the best designated or not designated hitter, pinch hitter in baseball history. The Gator, love you, Gator, But I would definitely. There's a great story about Gates Brown that he was called up to pinch hit, and he was eating hot dogs. Gator was a rather large man, and so it's a legendary story. A lot of Tiger fans know. He put them in his shirt. He actually hit the ball. I think he was hitting a double, but he had to slide in, and he slid in head first to second or third base. I can't remember which base, but he had the hot dogs there, and they were full of ketchup. So when he got up, this is a true story, they thought I think like Neil Smith or whomever the manager was at the time, thought he had a heart attack or something because his uniform was covered in red because he had smashed the hot dogs. So, so Gator, I robbed that home run for you, Gator.
That would be one of these. I feel like a lot of
Tigers.
That's a lot of like baseball.
I may not be much of an athlete, but I watch a lot of sports. I can go through all the histrionics. I know what to do, all that stuff.
That'd be mine.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Love it. All right. Thanks, guys. This has been fun, as always.
Thank you, Carly.
And a big thank you to AAA for presenting Let's Socialize, of course, this week and every week right here on the Word on Woodward. Art, I think Ken Kale winning Hawaiian Ken Kale, I should say, winning that poll, he actually broke the internet by doing that. I know that's like a term that everyone uses kind of as a metaphor. He broke his internet when he put the Hawaiian shirt on. So he defines it. He defines breaking the internet.
Well, you know what? I think now we've got a theme song for Ken Kal too. The legendary classic by Don Ho, Tiny Bubbles. Whenever Ken comes on, we should be playing Tiny Bubbles underneath. That's his intro music. So that'll be great. Kenny Kal in the Hawaiian shirt. Kal, Danielle, we see him every day. This man has a treasure trove of shirt and tie combinations. I don't know where he gets them, how long, I think Darlene probably dresses them, but says, no, Ken, you can't wear plaids, polka dots, and stripes all in the same combination. You can't do that. Ken always is dressed to the nines. He looks great. And, but Hawaiian shirt, you know what? Ken's, had internet issues. Yeah, sure he did. He wanted to get out on that boat. He goes, I'm looking stylish in my Hawaiian shirt. I'm ready to go.
I don't blame him, honestly. I'm jealous. He's probably out there right now, wind in his hair, Hawaiian shirt blowing, boat. Yeah, I don't blame him. I definitely don't blame him at all. But you have a really good tie collection too. Don't sell yourself short. You're talking about Ken Kale's ties. You have ties that are older than me, which you always tell me, but you've got a lot of them.
I really do. It was funny. Someone sent me a picture of my early days in radio. And, it was a group shot of everyone at the station. All us, I was a disc jockey back then, actual vinyl records. And, the news director and all that, and a couple of the engineers, and I'm in a sport coat and tie, and my tie is about as thin as this pen. I mean, it was really the real skinny look that was, I can remember, I remember that tie, I remember that outfit. I always thought that I looked stylish. I said, oh yeah, man, I'm ready to go. This is, ladies, I'm single. Here I am,
Oh
yeah.
Well, with that, we have come to the end of the show today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember, the Tigers open the season in Cincinnati at 6:10 on Friday, and the home opener presented by Ballpark Brand on Monday. Part of that home opener, of course, will be a special tribute to Al Kaline. We have yet to see exactly what that will be, but we are very excited to see how the Tigers will pay tribute to number 6. Make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, and turning on your live notifications so you don't miss a single second of the Word on Woodward. We'll be back on Thursday, of course. We're going to have interviews with MLB Network's John Morosi, Tigers opening day starter Matt Boyd, and more. It's going to be a very exciting show. You won't want to miss it. So we'll see you guys then.